Thanks for joining us tonight here on Arc Salt Lake. It is Thursday, November 6th. I'm Brian Schnee. Tonight, this is a 2 News Town Hall live from the Salt Lake City International Airport. We are talking about everything air travel, everything that you need to know with 3 different experts in aviation. Due to the government shutdown at the request of the Federal Aviation Administration, there's a rollout of reduction, if you will, in air traffic over the next 7 days. Here's how it works. Starting tomorrow, November 7th, at 40 different airports, our major airports in the United States, 4% of air traffic will be reduced. It's in coordination with the FAA and airlines. They're going to have to figure out how to do this. We will learn how they're going to do this throughout the course of our conversation tonight. So November 7th, 4% reduction in air traffic. By the 11th of November, we'll ramp up to a 6%. 8% reduction by the 13th, and then a week from tomorrow, November 14th, we will see that full 10% reduction in air traffic. Now, our first guest tonight here in Utah, Chris Metz, VP of Aviation, Aerospace, and Innovation at 47G, which is a very unique company here in Utah that touches on so many facets of aerospace and aviation. Now, Chris is an expert in this field. He spent over 3 decades as an aviation leader, if you will, in various capacities, including his time at the FAA. Now, when he was there, he was the director of air traffic operations for a few years and then advanced through different pieces, ultimately ending as a deputy aviation administrator for about a year before he left to go to private sector. But Chris has some memorable moments with the FAA. He'll talk about that here throughout the course of our conversation in this 2 News Town Hall. But first, we're going to talk about the proactive approach that he says the FAA is taking here as opposed to something different, which he called a minute-by-minute, location-by-location sort of tactical operation. This is not the case.
This particular case, as you know, the Federal Aviation Administration's highest priority is safety, ensuring safety. There's zero tolerance for any safety incidents. And my heart goes out to those affected by the UPS disaster of this week. They are going to ensure safety. And so as numbers of sick leave and other factors of, cut off training because government shutdown, et cetera, to ensure safety, they're going to take a proactive stance of limiting or reducing strategically the number of flights.
How could you see that impacting larger airlines and smaller airlines alike?
Fortunately, the way the FAA works with these matters is that they'll collaborate on that. They'll make a decision that it looks as if 10% reduction is the right reduction. And then they will work with the airlines to say, okay, if that is indeed the case, and here are our most impacted facilities, you help us decide which flights are the right ones to reduce or to delay.
Back out here live in Salt Lake City at the International Airport here, which is one of the 40 major airports selected as part of a list by the FAA to roll out those reductions. It's done airline by airline, so in partnership with all these different airlines, and they've put out a lot of information on the airline-specific website. So if you have any questions, that is where you need to go. You need to be checking the app if you have a flight coming up. We'll talk more about that with a representative from the popular travel website, The Points Guy, coming up in just a few minutes. But in terms of Chris Metz and our conversation, a deep-rooted expertise in this process. Back in 2001, 9/11, many of you remember that and how planes were grounded that day. Chris was behind part of the grounding of aircraft nationwide on one of the most memorable and tragic days in American history. So his expertise runs deep here. At this point, we're talking about not just what happens here tomorrow with the reduction in air traffic starting at the local level here in Salt Lake City and 39 other airports nationwide, but what happens after the government shutdown has a resolution? Chris says this process could take a while.
It's my experience in government, having been vice president of the air traffic organization for a long period of time, that the lag in restoring to full performance is greater than the amount of time that was the shutdown was. I don't have the data in front of me, but it's exponentially larger. To restart programs that have been shut down, to re-engage vendors who are helping to modernize the system. That all takes time. It takes an analysis, and there will be a period necessary. But as far as air traffic controllers returning, my guess is it will take a paycheck or two for the distractions associated with the shutdown to be fully resolved. It will also, as there was a law put in place that says back pay is mandatory. It will take a little while to capture that back pay and to establish. So even if the shutdown ends, that doesn't mean that they're made financially whole immediately. That means that from then they can expect that next paycheck to come, but then the hard work of determining how quickly they can receive their back pay. So that status of stress, that status of distraction may remain for a period of time.
Chris's career in aviation is storied. He started his career as an air traffic controller. If you'd like to hear more of that portion of our conversation, the stresses that go into that job, the sleep schedule, being on point, everything that goes into that. By the way, those guys are not receiving a paycheck right now, which we also talk about. You'll be able to find that on our 2 News YouTube page. Again, we're live in Salt Lake City right now at the Salt Lake City International Airport. The reason why this is impacting Salt Lake so hard is primarily because of the traffic that comes out of here to all parts of not just the country, but even internationally. Right here in Salt Lake City, this airport is what's known as a Delta hub. Most of the flights that are coming in and out of Salt Lake City International are Delta flights. Seen over my shoulder here right now, there are flights that are getting ready to go. The airport here right now, in terms of operations, just after the 7 o'clock hour here on this Thursday night, smooth sailing, just fine. Keep in mind, the ripple effect has not taken place. If we were to see that, things may look differently here in Salt Lake City. I did ask Chris specifically about the operations here and what that reduction would do.
What will this do to Salt Lake City specifically as one of 40 on that list, that proposed list?
And yes, and I recognize that, first of all, that denotes how important Salt Lake City has become in our U.S. aviation infrastructure. It is a very important hub. Again, I'll go back to what I said, I think, at the beginning, which is Delta will now have to sit down and say, okay, we've got 5 flights to New York, and they're going at an 80% rate. Which one should we remove from service? Or do we keep all 5 of the New Yorks and remove the Dallas that only goes out at half the status, half full every day? And so they will sit down and they will have the ability to analyze the data, and they will make, in some cases, hard decisions. I think that they will be, and it's been their history, especially with Delta Airlines, I believe they'll be sensitive to those harder to get to locations.
Again, that was Chris Metz, VP of Aerospace and Innovation at 47G, a company with deep roots here in the state of Utah. We thank Chris for his time as taking part of this town hall with his more than 3 decades of expertise in aviation leadership. And again, you can find more of that conversation on our YouTube page. Continuing the conversation here in this 2 News Town Hall, a more practical approach for people like you and I that need to fly out eventually or have plans coming up for the holidays and have some concern. There are few better resources out there that have evolved over the years than the brand known as the Points Guy. Kind of your one-stop travel site that can get you all the information you need, whether it's about specific airlines, promotions that are being done. Maybe you have some credit card questions. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Eric Rosen from the Points Guy was kind enough to sit down with a quick conversation today. It's been a busy day for almost anyone that has any aviation expertise. Everyone wants a slice of the pie because there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of speculation about how everything will roll out. But Eric has some really beneficial points for you. If you've got a flight going out tomorrow, if you've got a flight going out in a week from now, or if you're concerned about those Thanksgiving plans.
If you have some travel planned over the next few days or weeks, I would say through the end of the year, you should definitely check those plans with your airline. Look into any travel advisories or waivers that airlines are offering. United, for instance, is letting folks with travel plans from today, November 6th through November 13th, cancel their tickets for a full refund, no questions asked. They're also letting folks change to flights at later dates within a set period of time without change fee or any fare difference that you would ordinarily have to pay. The most beneficial traveler is to arm yourself with information. If you have plans coming up, make sure you've got that airline app downloaded, make sure you've got those notifications on, and that your contact information is up to date. You can also take matters into your own hands a little bit by checking other websites like FlightAware or Flight Radar 24. Sometimes they have updates on flights a little before airlines release them to their own passengers, so you can get on the phone before other people realize there's been any sort of delay or cancellation with your flight and hopefully get reaccommodated faster.
Now, according to information sent out by the US DOT and the FAA just about an hour and a half ago, there are requirements for airlines to actually provide full refunds. Those airlines in this instance will not cover any secondary costs. You'll want to check with your specific airline to learn more about your options, especially if you need to get where you're trying to go. We're not done with Eric Rosen and the Points Guy. They are well known for their tips of how to take advantage of your credit card benefits, and also he will share which areas may see the most disruption. Our 2 News Town Hall continues right after this. Welcome back. We're live at the Salt Lake City International Airport tonight on ARC Salt Lake, and this is a 2 News Town Hall. Well, if you're like me and probably everyone else that I've spoken to over the last 24 hours, there is the ongoing discussion in households, in businesses, about what is going on here with the air traffic reduction situation as a result of the government shutdown. Now, as you learned in the first portion of tonight's town hall, just because the shutdown may resolve itself at some point does not mean the airline industry would be able to get back to full performance as quickly. You heard about the air traffic controllers and how a lot of them obviously are working without pay, but that pay will have to come back around here. And you heard from Chris Metz, an aviation expert who started his career as an air traffic controller, that there will be some time here and perhaps some lagging before that everything else with all the airlines and the DOT and FAA can get back up and running. Now, what is important to you at home is also what's important to me in terms of sharing this information. Which areas may see the most disruption? Which type of flights, for example, out of Salt Lake City International Airport would also see that type of disruption? And how can you use credit card benefits and protection in case you run into a strange travel situation during these very uncertain times? For that, we turn to Eric Rosen with the Points Guy.
Keep in mind that they're going to ramp up these cancellations. So just because your flight still looks good now, you've got to keep checking back day after day. I think we're at almost 500 cancellations for today, which is just a drop in the bucket of what could happen. If you're flying regionally, that's where you're likely to see the most disruptions on some of those smaller jets between smaller airports. Airlines are likely to try to fly their larger planes and international routes more consistently. But we wouldn't be the Points Guy if we didn't give you a credit card related tip, because they can really help out in situations like this. If your flight is delayed or canceled, you're stuck overnight somewhere, your bag gets lost, using the right credit card to purchase that airfare can provide protections like trip delay insurance, so that if the airline's not going to get that hotel night or give you vouchers for the meal, you can rely on that credit card's protections to provide you up to about $500 usually for an overnight delay when you have to get a last-minute hotel room or get dinner for your hungry kids and figure out what your plans tomorrow are going to be. So that can be a real lifesaver.
So Salt Lake City International Airport is on the list of 40 major airports across the country that will see those flight reductions. However, who is not on that list? Ogden-Hinckley Airport, for example, St. George Regional Airport, and our friends just south of Salt Lake City in Provo. The Provo Airport has a number of airline carriers that fly out of there daily to specific destinations, primarily easier to reach destinations. For example, Denver, some Phoenix flights, and even over to the West Coast in California. Matt Jensen over there, airport operations manager, kind enough to join us with part of a conversation from Leslie Duarte's conversation with him today as a part of our 2 News Town Hall. What gives in Provo with so much focus right now in the aviation world here in Salt Lake City?
Airport, but here at Provo, we have a very great relationship with our TSA counterparts here, and our security lines have actually been moving about at a normal pace. So we don't see lines of above more than about 10 or 15 minutes during our morning rushes, and that's been about our standard throughout the government shutdown. We really haven't seen anything above that. You know, here at Provo, we want to be the other option as far as the airports going in Utah. We want you to think, if you're flying out of the Wasatch Front, if you can't use Salt Lake, we would like you to come and use Provo. We pride ourselves on our convenience and how quickly you can get from parking your car through security into your gate.
Well, if you haven't considered Provo Airport, I can give you my own personal testimony, having flown out of Salt Lake City International plenty of times. Some recent flights out of Provo have been not only fast in terms of TSA, but very quick, very easy, minimal steps, great for children. You can go pick up a coffee. The whole deal is pretty good at Provo, with minimal gates, one central terminal, and some pretty large airlines that are flying out there with lots of options. Allegiant, Breeze, American Airlines, all using Provo Airport as a place where they can launch from. So if you're considering looking at the situation here in Salt Lake City, part of our 2 News Town Hall is giving you options for what you can do. You heard from Eric with the Points Guy about some benefits. We have benefits just built into Salt Lake City and the Utah state as a whole with regional airports that shouldn't see similar impacts. Shouldn't. There's still a chance. Here is Matt talking about the 3 different carriers and what they provide out of Provo.
Our 3 carriers, Allegiant, Breeze, and American, have all been operating as scheduled and as planned so far. If the airlines decided that they needed to add extra flights to help out with some of the chaos that can arrive due to the shutdown, we can certainly help out with that. Anything that our airline partners need, the Provo Airport's happy to help out and accommodate whatever requests or changes that are necessary.
Doesn't necessarily mean smooth sailing to the fullest extent at Provo, because a lot of those airlines we just mentioned will be subject to the impacts at the other major airports. Breeze will have them, Allegiant will have them, and American will definitely have them at some of their major spots. Now, with that said, Provo is a great option, but so is Salt Lake City. What you need to be doing here, making sure you're checking the app and keeping in touch with your own personal flight details. There's a lot of personal responsibility that lies on the situation right now, but at the end of the day, if you do not want to fly, like I've heard from a lot of you, your airline will likely allow you to receive that full refund right now if you're planning to fly in the next few days. This is a 2 News Town Hall talking all about the future of the air traffic reduction here that gets going tomorrow morning with 4% reduction in air traffic flow out of Salt Lake City International Airport and 39 others throughout the country. We will come back to wrap up our 2 News Town Hall right after this. Special thanks to our 3 aviation experts from varying backgrounds and disciplines here in the field for joining us on our 2 News Town Hall tonight. We did reach out to Salt Lake City International Airport to see if they would like to join us live on their property tonight. They declined. We also reached out to Delta Airlines this morning, who referred us to statements. You can find a lot of that information on the Delta website and on ours. We hope to hear from Breeze Airways here, that is Utah-based, coming up shortly. Thanks for watching us tonight. We are back tomorrow. 7 o'clock, Arc Salt Lake rolls on.